So like Troy said, my name is Chris Ryan. I'm the Chief Product Officer here at Policereports.ai. We are the longest standing police report writing document completion company that uses AI in law enforcement. So we've been around for 2 years and we've been to market for about a year. We're currently in 14 states and across about 40 different clients or so. And like Troy was saying, we don't just do law enforcement, we have an EMS product as well. But then there's a lot of other space that we can do for other governmental departments within your municipality or county. So I'm happy to show you all a demo to see what the use is, and we can talk about some cost savings and things like that our product came from. So this is our site. We're completely web-based, and one thing that we like talking about is that we're very tech agnostic. So we know what a pain it is to switch records management systems within your jurisdictions. We know a lot of your other third-party technology providers are really ingrained in the culture within your organizations. So we like being tech agnostic. We can work with everyone, and we can integrate with all of your current existing providers too. So there's not a lot of changes that may need to be made. We're completely web-based and we're hosted on AWS GovCloud. And then for the law enforcement and medical provider stuff, we exceed CJIS compliance standards for law enforcement, as well as HIPAA compliance standards for our EMS products as well. One thing that we do as well, we go a little bit a step further than some other providers. We have client-side encryption. So because we know that a lot of the documents that our public safety personnel are completing have a lot of sensitive information, PII and things like that. We as a company, we don't care what's in the reports. We just want to make sure that our cops, firefighters, code enforcement folks, whomever, are getting their stuff done easier. So we have client-side encryption. So we as a company don't even have access to any of the data that is being generated in these documents. So when the user logs in, they log in with their unique email address and then a unique password. And then after they log in, another box will pop up that asks for the encryption key. And again, that's set up by the agency. We don't have access to it. All the users have the same encryption key, which is generated by your organization. And the users just enter that encryption key to provide that client-side encryption. So what we'll see here, I'll give you an example of one of the landing pages. This is one of our clients out in Utah. So this is an example of the landing page that the sheriff's deputies at this agency see when they log in. All these different modules are custom built out for the agency. So we really pride ourselves in our partnerships with our clients and the organizations that we are in. So when we set up with the agency, they give us a list of, for this example, the sheriff's office, they give us a list of some common crime reports that they're writing. So we generate the different modules for them there. And then we also offer some analytical tools. So to analyze jail phone call analysis, analyze documents and things like that. We really get ingrained in the, day-to-day operations of the different divisions within the organization. So we'll sit down with the patrol officers, we'll sit down with detectives. Hey, what's your daily workflow looking like? How can we help out so that we can really get it dialed in and everything is custom specific to that agency? So let's say, for example, this patrol deputy has to write a report on burglary. So they would just go in here, select this call for service report. Their name's automatically going to be here. And then the officer would just have to enter the incident location and their agency case number here. So this incident details box, that's where the user is just entering the raw facts of what happened in. So we give a couple mediums to do it, just depending on whatever the user likes. If they prefer to type, they can type in here. If they do type, they can type bullet points. They can just do kind of one long stream of consciousness, regurgitate it all. It doesn't have to be formatted. Doesn't have to be in paragraphs. Spelling, grammar can be messed up. And that's all going to get fixed when the report's generated. But what we find with the biggest time savings is allowing the user to dictate what happened. And when we designed the dictation solution, we didn't want it sort of like the old school dictation items that I'm sure you all have used before, where you almost have to speak as if you were typing. It's just not natural and people don't like it. So what we found when we set it up is that we just want it to be like the user's having a conversation with the computer. And the example that I always give, I retired as a patrol commander. And when I was a patrol supervisor, especially with like the newer generation of law enforcement or public safety folks, you'd find that I would show up on scene as a supervisor and I'd say, hey, what's going on with this call? And they would explain it to me well, right? But then 2 hours later, I'm reading the report and I'm like, what the heck did you just write? So we wanted to kind of replicate that very conversational. They're briefing their boss or they're talking to their zone partner that, after they cleared the call and are just talking about the crazy call they were on. So again, very conversational. I'll do a quick demo for you so that you can see how the ease of use and what the report looks like from there. So, and again, in addition to just dictating the computer, we offer other options just depending on where the person is within their organization, right? So the patrol guy, they get back to their car, they're logged into the system, they can just click start recording right here. But then we offer some other things too. So let's say that patrol cop's away from their laptop, but they have their cell phone. They can access us on their cell phone. They have the same functionality. They can dictate what happened. And then because most agencies are still ultimately using a computer to get the report into their records management system, what they can do right on their phone, they can save that report as a draft. That way, when they get back to their computer, they can just log in, the report's there, they can make any edits they need and submit it into their RMS. And then finally, we have the ability, the detectives like this a lot, especially if they're in the field, they can just dictate almost voice notes or field notes into a voice memo, either on their cell phone or digital recorder. So they can be walking around a crime scene. We use examples of if they're doing a surveillance operation, rather than, again, trying to take notes on a notepad, they can just dictate what happened. And then when they get back to their computer, they can upload that voice memo and it'll generate the report from there. So again, just a bunch of different options depending on where people are at within their organization. So again, from that patrol perspective, all that patrol officer would have to do is click start recording. On April 23rd, 2025 at 0900 hours, I got dispatched to a late reported vehicle burglary. Female caller called dispatch and said her car had been broken into overnight. I responded to the scene. I observed a black Nissan Altima with Florida tag ABC 123 parked in the driveway of the house. I saw the front passenger window was smashed and there was some glass on the driveway and also inside of the vehicle. I made contact with the victim, Jane Smith. Smith said that she got home from work yesterday at around 6 p.m. She went inside the house, and then when she came out to go to work this morning at around 8:30, she found the car window smashed. I took photographs of the damaged window in the vehicle. Smith said that the replacement value of the window would be about $300. I then processed the car for latent fingerprints, and I took touch DNA samples on the interior of the car. When I was done, Smith looked in the car. She said her $300 Ray-Ban sunglasses, an Apple iPad mini with serial number 12345, and $4 in loose change was missing from the car. I entered the stolen iPad into NCIC as stolen. I gave Smith a victim rights booklet. I then started a neighborhood canvas. I talked to the neighbor across the street, Mike Johnson, who lived at 5678 Main Street. He had Arlo security cameras on his house. We reviewed the footage, and the footage showed two subjects wearing all black break the victim's window and enter the car at 0300 hours on April 23rd. I got a copy of the surveillance footage for evidence, and this case will be forwarded to detectives for follow-up. So then the user just clicks stop recording. And as you saw, it took me about 2 minutes to dictate out. Even your experienced cops, it's kind of simple report, that's still going to take 10, 15 minutes for them to type out, even your experienced folks. So again, just the time savings right there. And what it's doing right now, the system just transcribing everything I said. So what you'll see in this incident details box, again, it's just a raw transcription of what I said. And this is what the report gets generated from. So this is completely editable. So let's say I forgot my body worn camera was active during the investigation. I can add that in. The users can also start and stop recording as much as they want. So they can click start, talk for a little bit, click stop. It'll transcribe what they've said so far so they can collect their thoughts, make any edits they need. And when they click start recording, it'll pick up where they left off. So we have a replace function because obviously with the dictation solutions that are out there, I'm sure you've all experienced it with Siri or Alexa. It's only as good as whatever the dictionary that's being used is. So rather than the officer having to manually go back and edit names or things like that, they can replace it right in here. So let's say Smith spells her name that in a manner that isn't common. In this first box right here, we just put how it appears in the transcription up here. And then in the second box, we put how we want it to appear in that generated narrative. And if there's more replacements that are needed, the user just click the button again. So from here, the user just agrees to the terms of service. All our terms of service say is that it's incumbent upon the user to review both the input and then the generated report to make sure that everything's true and accurate to what happened. One thing that we do differently than some other providers that are sort of in this space, we created our own AI solution. So we tailored it specifically for, EMS and law enforcement for a couple of different reasons. The first is that I'm sure as you all have used ChatGPT or Grok and all the others out there, you always notice a little bit of embellishment, non-natural adverbs that's added to the document, things like that. So we prevent those from being added, and then the output is only based on what the user put in. So it's never going to embellish. It's never going to change anything, obviously for those public safety purposes. And the other reason we did that is from the privacy concern perspective. So we don't want any personal identifying information or CGIS information or HIPAA information going back to any of these third-party OpenAI or Meta or things like that. So that, again, that's why we created our own solution. So after the user just agrees to the terms of service, they click generate. And what you'll see here on the right is the generated report in this specific agency's format. So see here, this is exactly how this agency formats and writes the reports. So again, just from the dictation, it provided a synopsis, which is a requirement for this agency, listed the involved persons in the case, added some evidence and things like that, and then gave a good narrative. Spelling's good, grammar's good, syntax is good. But again, it's just reformatting the dictation, putting it to a professional looking format. So we go a step further here as well. So again, trying to keep with that normal workflow, because I'm sure as you all know, dealing with your employees in public safety, they'll complain how they do things, but then they'll complain when there's a change made, right? So we want to keep the workflow as similar to possible as what they're used to. So most providers, they're probably typing their narrative in Word or whatever, and then pasting it into the records management system. So we just think of this as a replacement for Word. So they can go right here, click copy, and then they can paste that whole narrative right into the records management system, just like they're used to. Before they do that as a reading, if they have to make any edits, this is totally editable as well. So they can make any edits as a reading through. If they think they're missing something, they can add that. So we go a step further as well too. There's especially in these fields, right? We got to write the report, but then there's all these other ancillary documents we usually have to fill out. So a tow form or an impound form, things like that. So this agency, for example, they have a separate burglary checklist that they have to fill out that goes to the detectives. Again, it's another time suck, right? It takes them another 10 minutes to fill it out. And a lot of it is the same information that's already in this report. So we can input all the agency forms in here. So then the user can just click this drop down. They can find their form that they're looking for. So for this example, the burglary checklist, and then they can click populate. And what it's going to do is taking their narrative, parsing out the pertinent details that are part of this form, and it's going to fill out the form for them. So again, adding in those additional time savings by doing those forms there as well. Are there any questions while to this point with the base product?
Hey, Chris, when you're doing this, you've talked about policing and things. Let me get my video back on. I'm sorry, my computer is delayed. Um, can you give us some examples of other departments that you're doing this for? I know you had mentioned EMS and some others, but I think that's important for people to understand.
Yeah, so we do the same thing with EMS reports. So your paramedics or EMTs, same functionality. They can dictate out a patient care report, for example. That's where we see a lot of utilization in the EMS field. So they can dictate out their patient care report. It's going to generate their narrative in the agency's format, and then it will actually fill out the chart for them in whatever records management or EPCR provider they have. We have clients that use it for code enforcement, so the code enforcement folks can do the same thing when they're documenting code violations within your jurisdiction. We have a test case with public works folks using it to complete their reporting requirements for maintenance and things like that as well. So there's really no limit to what any department that's using the system.
Yeah, you hit on this a little bit, but one of the questions I had, especially police, EMS as well. I mean, accuracy is so important, right? So it seems to me this would be much more accurate than trying to get back after a bunch of runs and trying to figure it out 2 hours later. Are you all finding that in your work
Yep.
with different cities?
Exactly. And that's really the key, right? Because they have that ease of just dictating. And when I'm training the cops to use the system, it's a little bit of change of workflow what they're used to rather than saving, 7 reports to the end of their shift. They're trying to type them out so that they can go home to their families and things like that. Before they even clear the call or they leave the jail, if they arrest somebody, they can be driving back to their zone and dictating out what happened. Their narrative's done. So again, saving hours a shift in writing all these things.
Yeah, if you had, I know there's always legal challenges in anything that's new AI, but it seems to me that you overcome the legal challenge and the legal hurdle because the EMS employee or the fire employee or the police employee has to reread it and make sure they sign off on its accuracy. Is that correct?
Yep, absolutely. That's part of the terms of service. And the one thing we're finding too, we've never had any legal challenges. And when we go into your jurisdictions, if the agency wants, we always meet with the prosecuting authority in that area. We run them through the product, and we've done this with many prosecutors. And all the prosecutors we talk to love the product because it's still basing it on that officer input. It's not basing it off body camera. And again, because that it's their own AI system, we know that they don't have to worry about things getting added or embellished and things like that. So the prosecutors actually really like the system when they see it.
Hey, we got a great question from Dean. It says, as an administrator, what is the process to setting up the different templates?
Yeah, Dean, it's actually very easy. So currently, when we onboard with an agency, we just have a 30, 45 minute meeting with a subject matter expert point of contact at the agency. We get sample reports from them so that we understand the formatting. We have, talks with them about the different workflows, and then we set it up. We usually run through a testing phase with a couple users at the agency just to make any tweaks that we need, and then we push it out to the agency wide. And we have good customer relationship folks here because we have constant interactions. A lot of those modules that you saw on the last page, a lot of them were based on user feedback. So the users will reach out to us once they start using the product. Hey, this is something I do every day. It would be cool if we could do X, Y, and Z. They walk us through the workflow. And then again, we build out the modules. So there's no limit to the modules that they have.
Yeah,
And then,
we've talked about, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh, no, go ahead, Troy. I just saw another follow-up question.
No, go ahead. Would you demonstrate writing a sworn arrest affidavit? Is that something you could transfer on from the report?
Yep, absolutely, Robert. So again, from here, you saw with those different modules, there's a couple ways of doing it. And again, it depends on the workflow of the agency. So this agency, they have like a web-based kind of affidavit platform. So what the officer can do, they can take this report right here that they write, and let's say they made an arrest on it, they can go put it in an arrest affidavit module, and it'll generate a good PC statement with the jurisdiction's criminal code language, elements of the crime, things like that in there. If they do have it on a form, they can literally generate the form from here too. So I can show that to you in a second. So let me get back to, this is the example of the form that was generated from this report for the burglary investigation. So again, after the officer or the deputy writes the report at this agency, they have to go in here and fill out this form. And again, it has a lot of that same info. Obviously, not everything in your narrative, an officer's usually going to spell out that would be on the form just because it's common. So again, this is editable. They can add anything that isn't in there. But as you'll see, it goes down, enters a point of entry, does a replacement value, selects that fingerprints and touch DNA were done, security cameras were looked for, and then adds the stolen property there. So same thing, Robert, with the arrest affidavit. Again, we didn't make an arrest in this case, but I can show you what that would look like right here. Let's say I subsequently located a subject.
So
Something
as you're
easy
doing that,
that
I
we
think the
can.
point is you're much more effective in the work that you're doing. Makes it a lot easier and also efficient, I would think, because now you're not spending as much time on the paperwork and things are being copied that you have to rework. And I know some, believe it or not, some departments are still using typewriters at some cases, or the legal system. So this is really extraordinary on the efficiency side and the effectiveness side.
Correct, absolutely. Yeah, and Robert, so again, when we're doing the setup, if the agent or the statutory language needs to be included in there, we can have it added to the system. So again, the AI will analyze the report and it'll go through the code and say, okay, we know that this is a burglary, so we'll add that language for you there. So this is an example of a agency of Virginia's criminal complaint, their arrest affidavit. So again, put in a brief PC statement right there and then filled out some areas. Going further, one other thing that we do as well too is we have checkers that are put in place. And again, the from a quality assurance standpoint, and the supervisors that are out there love this system. So what I always joke is we have enough dumb cops out there. We don't need to make it too easy for them. So we still like having the personnel, take ownership in their products, continue to enhance their report writing skills, continue to enhance their investigatory skills. So again, common thing, let's say the cop was writing this at 3 a.m. They're just trying to go home. They send it to their supervisor. They know they had a lot of, mess ups or things missing, but they just want to get it in and done so they can go home. We have checkers that are built in, again, based on the specific agency's policy and procedures down to that crime type. So let's say the officer writes this, they want to have the report reviewed before they send it off to that supervisor, again, to cut back on rejections and things like that. The officers can click check right here. It brings the written narrative over here. And then again, they just go back, agree to the terms of service and click generate. And then this is going to analyze the content of this report for specific policy requirements of this agency for the burglary investigation. So again, these are all during that meeting that we have. We build out these checkers if it's something the agency wants. And then again, it analyzes the report to make sure they're not missing anything. So again, had they not spoken about surveillance cameras, it would say no right here. Keys to the cop. Oh, hey, I did look for surveillance cameras. I just forgot to include it in the report. So then they can go back in there and then make any edits or do follow up if it was something they genuinely didn't do.
So it's efficient, it's effective, but it's also efficient for supervisors. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And again, just trying to get a better product, more efficient, and make everybody's lives easier.
Yeah, it sounds like your prosecutors as well are impressed by it and like it as far as bringing up evidence and the value of that evidence.
Yep, just providing a better product. The prosecutors like it. The detectives love it because, I was a detective for many years. There were tons of reports that I got from patrol guys. I'm like, come on, like I can't do anything with this, right? So again, having these checkers and things right there, again, it just provides a much better product and the time savings as well. I can give you some examples of the other things we can do, and I already have them spun up
Oh,
because I know
great.
everybody's
Do that.
time is so valuable. So this is an example of a report that was generated from an interview. So we as a company, again, there's other providers out there that, they think the body camera to report stuff is like the end all be all. But what we see is that it's not an efficient way of doing it, right? Because you might have a 2 hour long body camera, recording of an incident, right? So what it does is it takes that body cam footage, transcribes everything, a lot of it's unnecessary, and then generates almost like a template that the officer still has to do a lot of edits to, again, because it's not their words. They're not voicing everything that they're doing. They're not capturing their thoughts and feelings and observations on that body camera. So where we do see value in either video or audio recordings is generating reports from interviews. So this is an example of an interview with a suspect in a theft case. So all the detective would have to do, they upload the audio or the video file. And what it does, it provides a raw transcription of that entire interview right here. So from here, when they go and click generate, it now generates a report that documents that interview right there for that detective. Huge time saver, right? Because, the detective goes and does a 2 hour interview, then they go back to their desk, they're rewinding, pausing, re-listening, and typing, just trying to get a report generated. And again, it's doing that all for them based on that actual interview interaction. So I saw another question from Robert. So the system is automatically pick. We talked about that. How would it handle the narcotics arrest regarding the type of substance and the amount in picking the correct subsection of statute? The concern for prosecutors is that an officer will use the pre-picked statute subsection, which may or not be correct just based on the narrative. Yeah, that's absolutely true, Robert. So what we do, again, all of this is editable, and that officers are required to make sure that they look at it. But again, the system, let's say they arrest somebody for 4 grams of fentanyl, right? I'll use Florida as an example. 4 grams is a trafficking statute. So based on the system, if you had said, hey, I found, 4 grams of white powder in the car, I did a field presumptive test, it tested positive for fentanyl, it's going to pick up the trafficking language for that, right from the system, because again, it's using the specific code and analyzing it for that based on that narrative. This is an example of our jail call analysis feature. Again, this is a huge time saver. I worked narcotics for a majority of my career, and I don't know how many hours I lost listening to jail phone calls of folks I arrested. And again, a lot of it is they're talking to their girlfriend, they're trying to get bond, and they're not really talking about their case at all. So again, huge time savings right here. Same workflow. They upload the jail call. They can upload multiple here. And again, it provides that raw transcription of the entire call. And then it provides a synopsis of the call right here. So again, the investigator can quickly look at this. Okay, they're sort of not really talking about anything. So then the officer knows that, hey, this isn't one I probably have to listen to. What statute databases use? We use the actual state criminal code, so it's linked up to the up-to-date system of the criminal code for that jurisdiction.
So I guess one of the points is you can fine tune it for the city that.
Yep, exactly. So
what, anything that's that's unique to them can be uploaded into this to make it easier.
yep. So the data set is just the entire criminal code section that's being used. So it's using the actual up-to-date language of the legislative authority that's passing the statutes or the municipal code that is in with that agency.
Yeah, Chris, this was great. Thank you for your time and showing the product and explaining not only how it benefits police, but how it can benefit other departments within governments. If people want to get in touch with you for a little bit more information, how do they reach out?
Yeah, I can put my email in here. I'll put it in the chat. So my email is chris.ryan@policereports.ai. So yeah, feel free to reach out and we can do a more in-depth interview or demonstration, get some more of the stakeholders to take a look at the system as well. So feel free to reach out.
All right. Well, thanks again for being here, Chris. Thanks to everyone for joining, and we'll see you next time we have our next webinar. And I believe that Mike Mallory will be back for that. So, Chris, once again, thank you. Thank you for your team there at Police Reports AI. Really appreciate it. Great product. Thanks for sharing it with us.
Thank you all for your time. Thank you, Troy.